So I'm down here, and they use Grant Park, and then they block off this street in between the two segments. So this park is divided in two. And so there's an east and west side to the park. And they block off this street in the middle. So this street is not available all year round. And they use this, and they can put all kinds of things on this street. Anything that has lots of weight, if you're going to put in a heavy stage and everything, sometimes you can set it up right on the street. Truly. But anyways, they use this street between the two. And what I'm going to talk about is they should intertwine They should intertwine Maggie Daley Park and Millennial Park somehow into this event. So how do they encompass these other two aspects? Because these are more open field parks. It has a tennis court and some softball fields. The tennis court should be able to remove the fences. Oh yeah, the tennis court, they should be able to pop out the poles and put the poles back in. And then they lay a cover across the tennis court. So they should be able to remove those structures from the tennis court, the fence around the tennis court, and then the netting and the poles that hold up the netting to give more accommodation and more space. And that makes the concert being able to hold more people, right? So they have this here, and Lala palooza can work on Columbus over here with Millennium, with Museum Park. So they can have, when Lala palooza is going on, part of the concert can include Soldier Field. Oh yeah, every night they can have, and you would usher them. The parks connect. So I'll show you going through, but you can go easily from Grant Park right to Soldier Field. And so they can have big acts at Lollapalooza, and they would be on the center stage at Soldier Field, and they can have an afternoon act at Soldier Field, a evening act, and a late evening act, right? Your afternoon goes into, say they're on stage for 3 hours, then somebody else comes on stage for 3 hours, and then somebody else comes on stage for 3 hours, or they're 2 hours, hour in between, say. That's still 9 hours, say. There's an hour to reset. So they have to change out certain things from one act to another. But Lollapalooza can incorporate Soldier Field. And they can incorporate Northerly Island. See, it's just not there, Northerly Island and Soldier Field. So they can incorporate more acts, and they can make the event that much bigger, literally attracting hundreds of thousands of people. Truly. And while they're here, they can do things like, before the concert starts, because they're not going to be playing in early morning, they can go to the Field Museum. They can go to the planetarium. They can go to the Shed Aquarium. Truly, they can go out to the beach in the morning. Truly, Oak Street Beach. They can do windsurfing. They can go sailboating. They can go jet skiing, water skiing. They should incorporate that into a package. Besides, you're doing the concert, that starts in the afternoon. But you can get a morning package, and it goes late, but you're not going to stay up way late into the night, right? And kids that age, they can handle just on a couple hours. So, again, they can incorporate here the Field Museum, Shedd Aquarium, Adler, and Northerly Island is where they would have other concerts. Oh, and they would incorporate this. Northerly Island's down here, but the planetarium, they can do all kinds of music to the stars. So you're in there and you get to see the stars, and they can put it on a big screen. So the telescope transmit the images on a big, huge screen, like an IMAX screen. Truly. Like in Arizona, the planetarium, they have a laser show inside, which is really cool. But again, you have the entrance in that, and then the telescope sees out and it transmits its images on an IMAX type screen. And then they can add in all kinds of added graphics and, around there and showcase and tell those stories like they do, the twinkling stars and It's a Wonderful Life, and they're talking to each other. And again, they can add this incredible experience to this IMAX experience. And if they want to, just like you have the phantom events at the theaters, Adler Planetarium can project this into the AMC theaters. And it would be a night at Adler Planetarium because there's some big celestial event going on. And as the space program goes out there, and Elon Musk and, Richard Branson and, Jeff Bezos and NASA and Boeing and others, and this whole industry is building, the planetarium can do all kinds of joint ventures with them, and you can watch the telescope and see the space station go by. Oh, yeah. They know where the space station is, and you can get a view of the space station, and they can track it for a certain period of time, and you can see the space station moving through space. And so they can do all these different events, and they can pair up with AMC Theater. And they can pair up with Phantom Events that does the theatrical events, and they have them displayed live on the theater as they're at, like the Chicago Theater District, can pair up with the AMC. And it's night at the Cadillac Theater, and you're seeing Lion King live, but you're at the Barrington Theater. The Barrington Theater. And it's the same, but you're seeing it live on the screen. You're not at the Cadillac Palace because there's only so many seats, but you can see it live at the Barrington Theater and watch it on the big screen there, have popcorn and so on and so forth, and you buy a ticket for it. It's going to be much less, and you don't have to travel downtown. Now, if they want to do it pay-per-view on Amazon and that, you can do theatrical plays as pay-per-views as well. It's not only boxing events. It's not only UFC events. They can do theatrical events. So it's the same thing. A night at the planetarium can do a theatrical event, pay-per-view. So, again, I gotta take this off. But it's beautiful down here. And yes, they got to take care of the rodent population and figure out what is in down here, what is their purpose, and how do they integrate into the community and so on, and what is appropriate size of them. And so no rodents might not be good, truly. So you have to figure out how it works with the ecosystem. But with down here, again, you have to figure out the whole ecosystem. So, again, where do you get proper balance? And how do you keep them in their space and you in your space? And that's what I've been trying to put out there, to create this harmony or balance where they're in their space and we're in our space, and we share this world together. So again, here's the backside of the Shed Aquarium, but they could put out stuff like, again, a night at the Shed Aquarium, a night at the Field Museum, and truly. And they can project stuff like here at the Shed Aquarium, Planetarium, Field Museum. They can project it into the classroom. Oh yeah, you don't have to come down, and they can have the veterinarians talk, or the specialist on the beluga whales and so on, and they can project it into the classroom. And so now joining us, remember what Robert Schuller did from Yale University. He had these guest speakers. So he had the head of the SEC, I don't know what they call it in China, but their version of the Securities and Exchange Commission, who the head was a female, and she was developing this organization, this compliance in China. And I got to listen to her speak, and I rewatched it several times. And the whole point is, she was in China, and he had her on a virtual screen. It was simulcast, and she was talking to him, and they had a back and forth, and then she talked to the class if anyone had questions. So it's the same thing that they did at Yale that they can do here with the elementary and the high schools and the colleges. So they can integrate into this, and again, this brings more funding into them, and they get paid better for their job, but they're also providing more. So it's a win-win. They're adding value and they're receiving value. So the Shed Aquarium parking garage. But like I said here, figure out they can add